Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining this recorded presentation. My name is Patrick Sieg. I'm the president of the Rockville Art League. With me today is our judge for the Rockville Art League's Juried Members Winter Show, Palden Hamilton. Also with us is Lisa Sieg, who is our vice president and leader of our juried shows. Today's presentation is going to focus on the show's award winners. By the way, it is a beautiful show, thanks to Lisa and Palden and all of you. It's up in person at Glenview Mansion. You should definitely take a look at it in person. You'll be glad you did. Lisa Sieg has a few comments on the show in general before I introduce Palden a little more formally, our show judge. So Lisa.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. Thank you to all the artists who entered work into the RAL Juried Members Winter Show. There were over 200 entries for this show, which was juried to include 126 pieces in the 6 categories of mediums that we accept. The 6 categories of mediums accepted into the show are oils and acrylics, watercolors, drawings, pastels, hand-pulled prints, mixed media, collage, experimental and original computer-generated art, sculpture, and finally, photography. This is a large show. As mentioned, there are 126 pieces in it. It's eclectic, it's beautiful, it's in a variety of styles and mediums, each with unique artistry. The virtual show was sent out to all members, and it's also available on the rockvilleartleague.org website. If you haven't visited that website for a while, please hit refresh and you'll see the new show. The show is listed as the RAL Juried Members Winter Show. It's a white button. Go ahead and click it. It's under exhibits and it'll take you right to the show. Please do take a few minutes to look at it. There you'll see the show cards, a brief description of the show, including any gallery closures, the address of Glenview, phone numbers, followed by Palden Hamilton's remarks about the show. Then scroll down to see the work in the show. If you click on a piece, you'll find details about it, dimensions, medium price, a way to inquire, or even purchase a piece. And sometimes there's a brief description. If the piece has been awarded a prize, it's also noted here as well. But art is best viewed in person, so we encourage you to visit the gallery at Glenview Mansion, weekdays, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. But it is best to check the Glenview Mansion website or call before going. Because we're in the holiday season and there are multiple private events this month. The show is open through January 12th, though, and we hope you see it. If you haven't seen the show, you're in for a real treat. And if you've already seen it, you're going to want to go back and see it again. Bring a friend. There's plenty of parking. There's an elevator to all levels of the gallery. And it's uncrowded, so you can focus on the artwork. And as Patrick mentioned, we had, we were talking before, that we had 180 people come out to the opening, which was a great turnout. And we really appreciate Palden Hamilton for articulating that day so eloquently his choices for the award-winning pieces and taking time with the artists on Sunday to discuss their work. We also appreciated you sharing a glimpse into the difficult task of the jurying process. And we thank you for creating such a beautiful show for the Rockville Art League. And for those who couldn't attend the opening, we have Palden Hamilton here with us today. And thank you so much.
I had heard of Palden Hamilton and knew that he was a fantastic artist. Through this winter show and his efforts to help us with the jurying process, I discovered that he's also a fantastic judge and a wonderful person. Palden studied at the School of Art Institute of Chicago, got his BFA there. He continued his education with the Art Students League of New York. He currently teaches at MICA and the Zoll Studio of Fine Arts. He's won prizes everywhere. He's invited to plein air events throughout the country. I hope to take one of his classes this year, and in fact, it's one of my 2024 resolutions, and that's one that I'll have fun making that resolution. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a screen which will include our slideshow, and then I will turn it over to Palden, who will share his comments. Right. Hopefully everybody can see the slideshow, and I'm going to go ahead and start the slideshow. Palden, off to the races with you.
Okay, wonderful. So Patrick and Lisa, thank you again for putting on the show, for the honor of making me judge. It was a difficult job, but I did enjoy it. Now, first of all, I am going to share with you, I'm going to read my judge's statement, which talks a little bit about my process for jurying the show and judging the show. So if you pardon me reading from this sheet, after that, I will make improvised comments. When I paint, I aspire to begin work intuitively before using more analytical methods to correct and hone. This means launching a series of imperfect, but hopefully improving iterations, rather than executing according to a choreographed, preconceived idea. I then use technical considerations to correct and bring the image to a convincing conclusion. I juried and judged this show in a similar fashion. I visited the show's site, scrolling through its entirety and making quick notations of standouts. I would break, sometimes overnight, to clear my eyes and mind before returning for the next overview. When making award decisions, I would repeatedly scroll through each category. Sometimes my initial impressions were confirmed, and at other times, unsuspecting paintings I'd previously passed over snuck into my attention. Of course, seeing the work in person earlier this week, actually, it wasn't earlier this week, it was a couple of weeks ago, provided further clarity, sometimes confusion, as pieces continued to jostle for my attention. In the end, more formal considerations of technique, composition, craft, etc., helped to distinguish my final choices. How can one apply a consistent standard of assessment for such a large and eclectic show? The task proved to be impossible. I was necessarily inconsistent. I awarded some pieces for impact, others for subtlety. I awarded some pieces for technical proficiency, others for being unencumbered by rigid technique. Some for whimsy, others for seriousness, some for being highly articulated, others for being poetic. I try to interpret this diverse and eclectic work through varied interpretive lenses. Therefore, please accept the highly subjective nature of my decisions. In the end, I hope that the body of work that I awarded is a satisfying representation of the show and this community as a whole. And I also mentioned in my comments at the opening that really the biggest honor and privilege, I guess, for you artists is to have an idea and follow through with creating it, having the bravery to apply to a show like this. And then that is the main achievement. These awards are really a bonus for a set of people that I, again, very subjectively decided were worthy of note. And so with that, we'll get into the awards. I believe we're starting with the honorable mentions.
Well, let's do what we'll do is we'll go through the award categories.
Okay.
And we'll start with let's see what we got here.
It's the paintings.
Yeah, let's see. Here we go. I went the wrong direction. Here we go. The first category, oils and acrylics. And what we'll do is we'll build it up from honorable mentions through first prize in each of the areas, and then we'll have some comments on our best in show.
And please, Patrick and Lisa, if you want to weigh in with any comments or conversation, please interject whenever. So this first honorable mention went to Ray Tully. I thought this was a really striking genre piece, a scene of everyday life that oftentimes we drive by or walk by. And here it's elevated to the subject of this really nice painting. I like that little moment of representation and the figure on in an otherwise sort of abstract expanse. It sort of captures some of the solitude, I guess, of that job. And I also really liked the treatment of these very delicate neutrals in what looks like a concrete facade. There's the real feeling of sunlight. It might be morning sunlight, and with that shadowed stripe on the far left, picking up that reflecting the blue of the sky, and then that middle right band, also in shadow, has this really beautiful intermingling of warm and cool, sort of like a warm putty color with a blue. So it has that vibration and kind of beauty in a surface that isn't conventionally beautiful. So
go to the next one. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can get the controls going. Here's a beautiful one.
Oh, it's a beautiful one. This is Patrick's. I love this painting. I actually wanted to talk more with you, Patrick, about the subject of the painting. Patrick has a couple pieces in the show. I think both of them display a really beautiful, clean technique, application of paint, really subtle value shifts. I think there's something sort of quiet about it. I think in this particular piece, I feel the love of for the subject matter. It looks like it might be from an older photograph. There's sort of a nostalgic feeling to it, but beautiful, just subtle treatment of delicate tones. I think, I didn't really take note of this until now, but the patch of carpet, or the on the left side of the picture, you can see this almost kind of like posterized treatment of very individually considered values and colors that I think is sort of a microcosm of the subtlety that's really in every portion of this painting.
Well, that was our daughter at age 2, and this last summer in June she got married. So this is an old picture. And
congratulations! And she's got a nice head of hair for a 2-year-old too.
She doesn't take after her dad on that one. Right. So next one.
All right, so Jasmine Smith. This painting is really beautiful. This was one of several pieces that are in the show and part of a series of these forests of the night. I got a chance to talk to Jasmine after the show, or during the show last week, and talk about some of her personal history. She's from Bangladesh, and she said some of her early memories were of being in a boat at the edge of mangrove forest while her father hunted tigers, which is a pretty exotic upbringing. But I think, we share a love of this dark, sort of mysterious forest. I think there's sort of a feeling of warmth, like being enveloped by this forest, but there's also a sense of kind of dark foreboding, and in this beautiful graphic style that is apparently from memory. So I think this entire series of her work is really strong, and this piece in particular. So congratulations to Jasmine. All right. And so a big part of I tend to work in all genres, but very near and dear to me are pictures of people. And I think that this portrait was, I always look for that feeling of love in a work, and I could definitely see it in the face. And in particular, if you visit the show, definitely in person, you should go up and study the face very carefully. This beautiful feeling of luminosity in the eyes in particular. Subtle expression. It sort of, I guess, evokes sort of Bouguereau, perhaps. Just a beautifully executed, delicate portrait. Very high level of difficulty, I should say, and well handled.
I think the artist mentioned that Rowan is Candy's granddaughter. So
Oh, okay. Well, there, I see the love again. I look for that.
Fairly large piece. It was 36 by 24.
Yeah, it's an ambitious piece. And again, you have still life elements, you have wildlife, you have a portrait. So it's very ambitious and very nicely done. This one I thought was really striking. Mall view. It reminded me of a kind of a Barbizon landscape with that really rich, dark tones in the ground, in the, I guess the ground as opposed from the sky. And the sky has this beautiful silvery quality. Again, I think the value control is great. The way the clouds are almost the same value and temperature as the surrounding sky, but they do sit apart. And the ground plane has such rich, the trees and the buildings have this rich darkness. Just really captures the feeling of being at that place in a particular time of day. It captures the time and place very nicely.
and there's so little detail in the figures in this, but yet you feel it's crowded. You feel like there's a large group of people visiting the museum.
Hmm. I was surprised by that, actually, seeing it in person. I expected it to be this very highly articulated, crowd scene, but it's actually pretty brushy up close. So I told the people present at the opening that this piece really kind of snuck up on me. On the website, it didn't have as much presence, but in person, I thought it was very striking. It's and I said too that I wondered if it was a flock of flamingos where the pinkness and orangeness of the birds had been downplayed, or was it white birds that had been were being struck by this really, like that light at the edge of the day, this really strong sort of orangey pinky light, again right at the beginning or right at the end of the day, that happens in places by the shore. It's funny, I believe these are snow geese, and I saw my first snow geese in Baltimore County last week, right after I saw this painting. But this painting I thought was striking because it's an unconventional dimensions. And also, there's not really a subject that the artist could sort of grab onto and render in a conventional way. It's a very sort of fleeting, ethereal subject matter. And the artist, I believe, had to create their own kind of mark making to make this scene read. It's not the most readable scene in actuality. And I think here it registers really nicely. It captures that feeling of movement as these snow geese take off. And again, I can sort of feel the love of the person who created it, who probably went out in the cold to witness this fleeting scene and record it lovingly. Okay, so the second prize goes to Robert Lamar. I thought both Robert's pieces in the show were really strong. He's doing something really interesting with sort of edge quality and mark making. I'm a big fan of still life painting, but also specifically artists who conceptualize the subject as these kind of planar, faceted forms. And I think here there's each little facet of the sphere or the jar or the train is recorded with a really kind of strong, relatively high chroma color. And it just looks like a scene that's objects that are somewhat mundane, really seen through a fresh lens. So something about that really graphic nature, that sort of cut out quality of the shapes just really stood out to me.
And one thing that's remarkable to me is, many of our artists paint thickly, with texture. This painting, the texture is absolutely thin paint. I mean, you can hardly see any texture, yet the chroma comes forward.
Mhm. First prize, I was really struck by After the Affair when I saw it online and then in person. I think it's got a quality of sort of immediacy, freshness, intuitiveness that I aspire to in my own work. Uh, my work I feel like I tend to overwork. And so when I see something fresh where the artist has come in and told their story and then gotten out, I really respond to it. I think, some of the design on the second vase on the right, especially, it's just treated in this very intuitive way, and then it's left alone. It's not nitpicked for, I guess, to describe the object more. I think there's something that's in the flowers that is implied. Of course, the title gives us a bit of the narrative, but it's an objectively beautiful subject matter, which is, bouquets of flowers. But there's that hint of kind of mystery, little sadness. There's a feeling especially in the bouquet on the left, that it's a little past its prime. And as I said at the opening, it's not like a traditional vanitas where you see, petals falling off of, sort of a rotting fruit or a shriveled petal sitting on the surface of the table. But there's just a little bit of kind of sagginess or darkness to some of the flowers, juxtaposed with others that are still very fresh and open. So I think there were some subtle emotions, a subtle narrative expressed in this, just using in the genre of still life, which was really nice to see.
Okay, so now we will move on to our next category, which is watercolors, starting with an honorable mention.
All right, so I can tell this artist really knows what they're doing. I think it's a beautiful subject matter. And one thing that I have trouble doing with watercolor, which is the strength of the medium, is that the medium has its own life if it's left to do its thing. And I feel like this artist has really let the medium kind of run and do its things within the artist's intent. I love the colors in the hair, for instance. You see, yellows, blues, reds intermingling. The same thing in the skin tones. There's sort of all colors everywhere, but the picture still gels. So I can tell that artist really has command of the medium. And we can go to the next. Okay, this painting I thought was really striking. It's a big part of my practice to do natural objects, and the quality of clams or oysters is they have this very, I don't want to call it ugly, but sort of coarse exterior. And then they have that jewel-like interior, that sort of enameled interior. And I can see here that the artist is trying to express that almost like treasure chest quality of the subject, these intense sort of iridescent purples and blues inside. And even just the difference, not just the difference between the color between the interior and exteriors of these shells, but also the use of the medium and the strength of water media is those intense colors just glazed on top of a white sheet and having the light come from the sheet. I think this painting is successful in large part because of the medium. So beautiful use of watercolor. All right, this scene is just it's very sweet. I was not biased in its direction because I happen to have a 6 and a 7-year-old daughters, and I have a cat. But it's just a moment that it's almost like it's just a timeless scene, lovingly and beautifully rendered. I'm not sure. I think the piece kind of speaks for itself. I'm not sure what else to say. All right, I said in the opening that Good Morning Sunshine, this painting, snuck up on me at the opening. There are a couple pieces of Angela's in the show, and I thought this one captured this sort of cozy and mysterious doorway really beautifully. I made comments about specifically the mark making. It's a rather chaotic scene with all the different kind of somewhat tropical looking plants gathered around the doorway. And I think both the treatment of the plants, the mark making of the plants, and also the shadows that they cast on the door are really nicely observed, really nicely considered. There's a tendency when we have a chaotic mess, especially on the top left, those plants coming in to sort of replicate brushstrokes as a shortcut and just create interesting mark making and just keep stamping it on. But I feel like what was included, what was not included, was really a very sophisticated painting of a difficult scene. All right, second prize. So I hope you don't mind if I refer to you artists by your first name sometimes, but Joanne, this is a really nice piece, one of two really nice pieces in the show. I was torn between this one and another painting of flowers. I think this subject, the way this was handled, the mark making especially, is really strong, captures that vibrating quality of light. Also the kind of the roughness of the foliage and especially the left-hand side. And some of that sweeping perspective. It's a somewhat unsuspecting scene. It looks like the artist could have just pulled over on the side of any road, but it's really the light that creates the interest in the scene. And it's handled in a very, very sophisticated, very strong way. First prize for Karen Norman. I have seen Karen's work before. That did not influence my decision, but clearly a master of the medium. It's a scene that I said could so easily have been sweet. And I think if you see this in person, especially the reflected lights on the shadow side of the tangerines, maybe that's what they are, clementines. They glow. It's just a glowing painting, but it still maintains that sense of mystery and seriousness. I think partially through the subject matter, this kind of mysterious use of keys sort of imply a narrative. I love the shadows that are cast, these transparent shadows cast by the glass work. This piece is somewhat large and has a lot of presence and holds up in every minute detail as well.
Okay, we will move on to the next category, which is pastels, drawings, and prints.
Okay. All right. So this one is really a great use again of the medium, the pastel, which I feel is so adept at capturing that vibrating quality of light, and also the scrubbiness of I feel like that scrubby scratchiness of nature in the bushes in the background. And again, the vibe and the way that light vibrates on top of that. I thought this captured that sort of cool clarity of light on a winter day. That's a beautiful piece. Patricia Jacobs has a couple pieces of work in the show. Again, I was sort of torn as to which one I would include for second prize. I think both of them capture that high impact light. And although I feel like the values are very accurate, there's a pushing of color, and there's also an expressive pushing of the drawing that's really interesting to me, the way that fence line sort of waves, the way that the cast shadow on the snow sort of wavers, even the way the tree in the background sort of spreads up into the sky. There's something almost symbolist about it that I thought was beyond the impact of it was very stirring. So both pieces had that kind of visionary quality. Really nice. first prize goes to Diane. Diane had a couple pieces in the show, a large painting of a cow and its calf. This one really struck me with its sensitivity. I think that there is an honest effort to depict using this delicate and sometimes kind of messy medium to really capture the soul of that individual sitter. And there I see the specificity in the face, and in that little portion of skin that we see, the shoulder and the chest. It's a person who's strong, but you can also see the effect of a little bit of age. And I think it was just very sensitive to the viewer. Of course, the rendering of the fabric all over. There's also a lost and found quality to it that's really nice. It's not a highly illustrated face, but it really looks like an individual. So beautiful work, and congrats to Diane.
Our next category is mixed media, collage, and experimental.
Okay, Sheila, I got to talk to Sheila after the show a little bit, and she was telling me that she went to Cooper Union. I believe she studied painting for most of her career, and is a somewhat recent, has recently been doing more collage work. And it was nice to hear how she really is considers the pieces of these are not found pieces of paper. She actually takes a lot of time printing out, specific photographs to use for this. Really strong sense of design in both the pieces she has in the show. I thought this one in particular really captures that, that settling inside this figure. Just beautiful piece. So in the mixed media category, I thought this was a really nice use of a layering of different mediums. I couldn't even say what was used, but there's sort of an iridescent quality. I think there was maybe some metallic in the underlayer, and then this beautifully rendered fish and flowers. It looks like maybe some kind of magnolia on top. Just a beautiful, I guess they're not negative connotations with decorative piece, but yeah, it's just a beautiful use of the medium, beautiful line, beautifully layered.
It almost has an Asian feeling in my mind.
Oh yeah, even the title, Luck and Stability. I think it's I could imagine it being a screen, a Japanese screen. And another beautiful use of material. I think I said at the awards presentation that this one, I almost wanted to reach out and touch this one or reach into it. So it's called Conversations Loud and Quiet, and that the negative space at the top and the bottom has this beautiful layering that looks like you could just reach into the painting and touch nothing but air. Whereas the parts, that middle stripe with the layering of paint, it just tempts you to want to touch it, but that has that sort of vibration and noise that I think expresses the concept of the piece very well. Very satisfying surface quality. So this one seemed like kind of a masterpiece to me of collage. When I went to school in Chicago, oftentimes there were kind of snowy night skies, and the city lights would illuminate the clouds, and the clouds would become almost this kind of soft, diffuse purple light source. And here you can see kind of the cozy city interior, and then stepping back in space, you can almost see the veils of atmosphere that just increasingly cloak the cityscape until the horizon, when the distinction from ground, plane, and sky is almost indecipherable if you were to see this piece up close. again, this beautiful color and value control in a medium that is very laborious, and I imagine it's very hard to control. So ambitious piece and really nicely executed.
While every piece in the show looks so much better in person, I think this is probably the prime example. When you're up close and seeing this in person, you can actually see numbers and letters and other things that were part of the collage pieces that went into this, which I just think are dramatically beautiful. So our next category is sculpture and ceramics.
Okay, so Barry Bellman. I really like both the pieces. I believe both his pieces were alabaster. The other one was called Embrace, and I originally had that one as honorable mention. But I thought this piece with that sort of expressive face looking up was really powerful. I love just the substance of stone. I have great admiration for people that can do subtractive sculpting and also have the strength and vision to chop through that stone and create a beautiful object. I like the areas of roughness versus almost just completely sanded and buffed sort of smoothness. It's a really nice, that sculpture has a lot of presence. Third prize goes to Floyd Roberts. So this is, I've told you already that, or maybe I haven't. Natural objects, specifically bugs, are a part of my practice. I have a big bug collection, and I can tell when somebody really has gone the extra mile to record the gesture of a particular type of creature. This one is made from a lot of copper wire. It looks like there's armature wire. There are kind of flat sheets of copper that have been bent for the legs. And all these sort of chaotic threads are knitted together into this beautiful sort of contour, beautiful gesture that really captures, I think, what is endearing about honeybees. Nice work, Floyd. Another beautiful, very substantial object. This is up on the mantelpiece. I would have to research where a lot of this imagery comes from. It looks like some of it is taken from maybe sort of native, maybe pre-Columbian or maybe Pacific Northwestern imagery. But the way that all these bird heads and stingrays and serpents sort of tessellate onto this format, onto this round format, I thought was very sophisticated. Texturally, it's really nice. There's kind of a sandy matte quality to the white ceramic, and then this beautiful kind of straw gloss finish to the glaze, the black glaze. Just really nice piece of design and a nice object. Yeah, this piece, it's interesting. I only saw this rear view when assessing the show, and then in person, it really came to life for me. It really brought up a lot of questions. At first, it looked sort of whimsical and cute, sort of a little kid, almost kind of stumbling forward in an awkward way, but it almost could be interpreted as an older person too. And of course, the title "Are We There Yet?" definitely hints that the person is a youth. And but I also I said in the show that "Are we there yet?" is something that a kid might say, a kid that is sort of without agency, sitting in the back of a car, being impatient. But then when I saw the actual piece, and it might be interpreted as an adult, it's somebody who is really, he's got a map and does have agency and is deciding, which way to teeter forward. This piece just really made me think. I like the use of kind of mixed media, the map, the figure, the ground. Really nice piece with presence that made me think.
So now we'll move to our final of the 6 categories, which is photography and photographs.
Okay. So this was a pretty powerful piece. Remember the Plassey. I don't know where the Plassey is, but there were a couple of pieces by Mauricio in the show of this subject matter. I think both of them captured the feeling of this deserted ship. I think in this one, especially just the sweep of the sky and those sort of dwindling tidal pools in the foreground really brought up the loneliness of the scene. You know, I love these kind of old abandoned things, and I feel like this really captured the loneliness. And then if you look closely, there is a single figure exploring the wreckage. They're more front in the foreground in the other picture of this subject, but I like that little human element as well. So this is Lisa's, and I thought I just personally am a sucker for mist and that juxtaposition of clarity and mystery. And well, there it is right there. Clarity in the Mist is the name of the photograph. I just love this, all the little minutia, the sharp minutia, and the dandelion heads in the foreground, and then just the veils of atmosphere that at a certain point it becomes hard to distinguish ground from sky. It was reminded me a little bit of Sally Mann's pictures of Antietam. There's almost a kind of a ghostly, there's a ghostly quality and a lot of poetic ambiguity. I think it's a beautiful image.
Thank you.
So Chris Curran, I said this photograph was worthy of a magazine. And again, I hope that's not in photographers and culture, that's not downplaying it at all. I think it's a really striking image, in part due to the subject matter, but I think also this particular vantage point, this particular moment with the light sort of raking across, the relationship of the figure to the ground, that lit figure up against that really warm sort of terracotta shadowed background, and then areas where the figure's in shadow up against light. I think it's a subject that would have been interesting in any case, but the artist's perspective has really made it a lot more powerful. And this one, First Prize. I think, you know, stairways are rich in narrative subject matter, and I think this one, seeing the goings up and the goings down of the staircase with this kind of extreme perspective, this figure whose face is concealed trudging up the stairs, even something about the plastic covering on the rail sort of adds another element of I would say it's a sort of a melancholic feel to this photograph. And of course, like the stark black and white really makes this a striking composition, striking image. Rush Hour is Over. I love the title too. So congrats to Estelle.
And now finally, our Best in Show piece.
All right, Best in Show. I hate to keep referencing back to my talk at the opening, but I judged an event in Rockville years ago. It was a portrait show, and I gave first place to a very understated little pastel portrait that I think was somewhat controversial at the time. It was a little controversial. So I just say that only to premise, only to say that I don't always give the top awards to paintings that are large and impactful, but this painting is very large and very impactful. It's Jennifer Howard in the Stillness, one of two really nice paintings by her in the show. I got a chance to talk with her a little bit after the show too, and found out she has a background in graphic design, and I think that just the strong design aspect of this really makes it hold up on the wall. I mentioned that about a month ago in this area of our little area of the world, notably poplar trees in the distance on these distant hills. The tops of the poplar trees have these really strong yellow leaves. And then you can start to see into the forest interior and see the bones of the forest, dead sticks and trunks, dried leaves on the hillside. And we know in actuality, those are the local color of those are sort of gray and earth tones. But when seen up against that late, afternoon or morning light on yellow leaves, that sort of dead interior of the forest takes on this really lively sort of purplish blue color. And I think here there was the artist is really stating that, and not overstating it. I think stating it strongly, but keeping using a lot of restraint and value control. And what we get here is just a real feeling of that time and place. And it's, to me, it's very moving too. It's called In the Stillness. And I feel that stillness, the stillness of the water, the stillness of that sort of fall air. It's a beautiful piece. So congrats to Jennifer Howard.
I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the slideshow. And now it's the three of us back again. Palden, thank you again for such insightful comments and for spending so much time to make our show a success. Lisa, there is art and technique and expertise in hanging a show. Another reason why we should all see it in person. And again, please come see our show in person. You will be glad you did. And I'm going to end our recording right now. Thanks for paying attention, and thanks to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.